When intellect develops, his interest to learn, all these things will come. But generally,
Sounds
our
easy.
thing is only
So
to reach
hard.
the goal. Once a person has chosen the spiritual path,
Then you could reach enlightenment just in that pose. Just being without pain in your body is superhuman. Like doing an asana practice every day to where your body feels good is superhuman. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. Like that's just...
Ready for the video?
Yes, let's do this.
Perfect. Conscious practice. What's conscious? This is Vish and
Jamie Lynn.
And today we'll be responding to Sadhguru's video on
How Tantrics Perform Miracles, a yogic perspective.
My name is Vish. I'm an aspiring yogi, love all things yoga, meditation, and wisdom based. Super grateful to have
Jamie Lynn Beulah
on the show. Want to introduce yourself?
So I am actually a therapist. I'm a therapist in the Austin area and I work primarily with people who want to improve their relationships.
And thank you so much for being here.
Oh, and also, I am a Tantra practitioner. I've been doing Tantra now for about 2 years.
Well, that's going to be perfect for this video. Super excited for it. And with that,
Let's watch.
as you have a logical mind, there's another mind, which is completely different. Now you can do telepathy, you can do telekinesis, these are divya manas. At that stage, it is very easy to develop that, but it also brings immense suffering.
The greatest gadget, I like that. Oh, is he talking about koshas? We'll see.
The body, or this, what you call as yourself, evolves itself in many different stages. Looking at this evolution, in yoga we see this as 7 different stages, or we say 7 different bodies man has. 7 different bodies need not necessarily mean actually 7 different bodies. These are 7 different stages in which one grows. From 0 to 7, up to 7 years of age, only the physical body grows. This is Sthula Sharir, or the gross body. 7 to 14, another body which is called as Bhav Sharir, the emotional development of a person happens. From 14 to 21, next 7 years, the Manasik Sharir, or the mental body, evolves. That is when the intellect develops. When intellect develops, his interest to learn, all these things will come. But generally today, modern society is limited only to these 3 states of the body: the physical body, the emotional body, and the mental body. After that, we are not seeking any development. The next 7 years are for divya manas. As you have a logical mind, there is another mind, which is completely different. In yoga, we avoid this 4th level of development, because once a person goes into this, he becomes miraculous. Many miracles start happening around him. What is there can be here, what is here can be there, you know what is happening there, these kind of things. In yoga, we seal this route. We don't allow people to go into divya manas because it is still mind. It may be, divya means it's a grand mind, you know. Mind on a much grander scale than that we know as mind is. Once you enter this mind, you know everything, you know. Not everything, but when compared to other people, you look like a miracle. Once this happens, people generally lose the next stage of development. Most people will not have the maturity to just push it aside and go ahead. They will always get entangled with this. This is still a psychic state. Now you can do telepathy, you can do telekinesis, all these things. These are divya manas. From 21 to 28, this mind can be easily developed. This is a natural process. At that stage, it is very easy to develop that kind of ability. But people who are on the spiritual path should never seek that, because all that will end up with is a higher level of the mind. As it is, mind is deceptive. A higher mind is even more deceptive. It gets you entangled in a much deeper way than the low mind. So we just keep that aside. Nobody will seek the absolute once they come to contact with divya manas, because it is so huge, so vast, so miraculous. It feels like God. You don't need anything more. That's a kind of feeling that it creates. But it also brings immense suffering, as normally a person who goes into divya manas, after 47, 48 years of life, tremendous amount of suffering is brought about. On the path of yoga, we are trying to bypass a few things and go always to complete emptiness, total dissolution, because till then the job is not done. Once we approach spirituality as a science, then we are not looking for entertainment on the path. Whatever little things happen, we are only looking at it as a stepping stone for something bigger that can happen. We are never looking at it as a big entertainment and getting enamored with that. It is very, very important. Little
Getting
people
stuck in
feel like this
pleasure.
in meditation, they are thrilled. And you find within 2 months they're again down. This is happening repeatedly because you get entertained. Don't get entertained with what is happening. Whatever is happening, our
Sounds easy.
thing is only to
So
reach the
hard.
goal. Once a person has chosen the spiritual path, the way he sits, the way he stands, the way he eats, the way he speaks, the way he thinks and the way he lives, everything has to be spiritual. So every aspect of our life has to become yoga, every aspect of life has to become a process of growth.
In this solar system, human system is an ultimate machine. 114 chakras in the system, you can move them. If you arrange it in a certain way, you've become a full-fledged divine entity.
We don't allow people to go into divya manas. Once you enter this mind, you know everything. It is more attractive than anything that you know in your life.
All the 7 different chakras are in your feet. There is a whole technology about how to hold the feet. What you cannot achieve in years and years of sadhana, you may achieve in a
Asana
moment.
practice, if there's a very specific way you hold your feet.
Your nervous system is capable of feeling how old the flowers are. Every moment, absolutely, you are with that dimension which is the basis of everything.
So Jamie Lynn, being a Tantra practitioner yourself, what do you think of this video?
There were some things that I have heard before in that video, but I've never really delved into, like these 7 stages that you grow through. And from what I understand is you cycle through them throughout your life. Every 7 years you move through the stages and you have an opportunity to do growth in each one. But I've only heard that in passing, so it was kind of nice to hear him dig into each one a little bit. I practice very traditional Tantra, and it's actually almost what every other religion on like the Eastern side has been born out of when it comes to practices, like rooting deeply into a practice. And my teacher, she always says, like, it's a pagan tradition. It's about connecting to yourself, connecting to everything around you so that you can experience divinity.
That is cool. I actually didn't know much about that. Honestly, this specific video was a little lost because I don't know much about the space, and it does come from his Sadhguru exclusive video type, which is on YouTube, by this, it is public, but that usually is a channel that has more of his deeper, sacred, spiritual stuff, which is a deeper dimension of stuff to access.
It's more rooted in like the traditional teachings, which Western folks, like unless you've practiced yoga and started to like really delve into yoga deeply, you wouldn't hear these terms. Myself included, I've only just started learning them and I hear them in passing, like in readings or from a yoga teacher, but it's hard to find these particular teachings unless you like go really deep.
There we go. Well, it seems like you also are learning too, and I'm learning on this boat. We're all both seeking, and I'm sure you all are seeking as well. And I love that point he made in the video, which was, although a lot of these inner seeking paths can lead to some miraculous superpowers, quote unquote, it is something that isn't really given that much importance. And I think the key here is, as he says, to realize that we don't want to be aiming to be superhumans, but realize that being a human being itself is a super thing.
Right.
What does that mean to you?
I remember my teacher, Rashmi, she once said to me, like, just being without pain in your body is superhuman. Like doing an asana practice every day to where your body feels good is superhuman. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. Like that's just a tiny step on the path to having this constant state of just open bliss.
That was also a great perspective, and also something similar to what I've heard recently, which is that at least from the physical yoga aspect or perspective or angle, a lot of the movements that are actually taught, which are the asanas, are actually usually practiced to help you master just one asana. And when you can truly master one, supposedly, I don't know too much about this. At this point, it's very conceptual because I haven't really gotten close to this area, but really just the mastering of that one position itself or the one asana itself can actually get you pretty close to this quote-unquote enlightenment.
Right.
And so any other thoughts on that perspective?
I love that perspective because it's so true. Every single like vinyasa you move through is actually supposed to prep you for, what am I thinking of? Like a handstand. So Urdhva Vrikshasana. If you're doing that, but you're really doing it and staying present, then you could reach enlightenment just in that pose.
Yeah, no, that was also great. And I am curious because Sadhguru has mentioned actually this point, and coming from your background from the West, but also it seems like you've dabbled or actually had quite a bit of experience with the original roots of these practices. He has talked about how a lot of the Western adoptions of these sacred and deep things have been, let's just say, either misunderstood or oversimplified, which can actually cause some harm rather than benefit. So what's your take on this whole angle?
Yes, so with that, the harm that I imagine, I don't know for sure, but I imagine he's referring to is getting more stuck in seeking pleasure rather than actually seeking enlightenment. Because Western people, we take it in from our left hemisphere, like Western culture is very left hemisphere focused. I want to feel good all the time, and if I don't, there's something wrong. And so they use these ancient practices to try and feel good and exercise all pain, when really these practices are teaching like, no, it's not about avoiding pain and seeking pleasure. It's about accepting everything and feeling bliss all the time.
Jamie, I think you nailed it there because I was not too sure about how or what exactly he meant, but I think you actually hit a really hard spot on this perspective, which is exactly what you're saying. And I think, like you said, a lot of us are just pleasure seekers. And the key is that we're all seeking, right? It's the difference of, are you consciously seeking or unconsciously seeking? And when you're unconsciously seeking, that's what leads to primarily the pleasure being your utmost goal. In fact, especially in the West, growing up here and having that background too, peace is regarded as the highest thing, right? But as Sadhguru himself says, if you make that the highest goal of life, then you're only going to rest in peace. And so peace should be your basic foundation to life. That way, you can strive for things like bliss and ecstasy and states beyond.
Tantric, like tantric practice is about seeking that bliss, ecstasy, communion with something that is so big and infinite that you finally realize like, oh, everything constantly is just exploding with life.
Exactly. Literally perfectly well said there again. And just realizing at the end that, as Jamie Lynn herself said it, I think it can easily be viewed that once you overcome this pain through these practices, that's it.
Right.
But the goal here is that when you do these things, according to Sadhguru himself, he says that when you do these asanas as well, and the reason why in the Isha path they do require or have you do some physical stuff, it's so that you don't have any physical barriers to that goal of this ultimate liberation, that is. So thank you so much for sharing this amazing perspective from your background. Want to share with the viewers where they can find you?
Yes, you can find me here on YouTube at Practice Intimacy. I'm also on Instagram under the same name, Practice Intimacy, and online at jamielynbula.com.
Perfect. All of our stuff will be down below. If you have any other video reaction requests, topics, or guests that you want to see on the show, you can also comment down below. And with that, make a great day. Take this joyful and stay conscious. Awesome job. You did great.
Thank you.
Perfect.